this is an interesting one. Sammy Guevara has been suspended for apparently continuing the match between he and Jeff Hardy on February 14th, 2024 episode of AEW Rampage. Now, we watched the video a couple of weeks ago with the shooting star press. So Sammy does a shooting star press on Jeff Hardy. He sort of tilts in midair, and instead of landing sort of chest to chest, it lands knee.
It was brutal.
It was knee to nose, essentially. So after the bad landing, Sammy was instructed to pin Jeff Hardy. So I imagine that either came from, well, it must come from the referee, most likely. But instead, he hit his go-to-hell finisher on him and pinned him instead, contrary to the new AEW concussion protocol. So what do you make of that? The whole suspended for carrying on a match when a potential concussion has broken out.
Was he aware? Was he aware of the protocol? I'm sure he was.
Well, he would have been aware that someone told him to end the match right there and then.
Yeah, that's just following orders. First of all, he was really, really lax and incompetent. Well, not incompetent because he's hit it before. But I think he either got, I don't think he meant to do it, of course, but he over-rotated. And I'm watching it. It hurt me just watching it because his whole leg come right across his nose. He had to almost knock Jeff Hardy out. I'm sure he kind of got knocked out. But then what was the finisher move he used?
It's called Go to Hell.
Okay.
It's at least not a shooting star press, I'll say that. But the big issue is that it carried on.
The referee could tell that he was knocked out. The producer in the back could tell that, well, he's in no condition to carry on, and said, let's go home. That's all they say. Let's go home right now. Tell him and the referee probably told him, and he ignored it. That's why he got suspended. Because they said, let's go home and see what they don't want to do already. Jeff Hardy's hurt already. He's hurt. So let's don't compound this by continuing some other bullcrap move that you got that makes you look good, but he's about to die there. And so if they suspended him, and I don't know Sammy, I'm sure he didn't mean to do this, but that was meant to send a message to the dressing room. And I will say this. I blasted Tony Khan for not taking control before. I will say I'm glad he did it. Now he's saying, you can actually, those guys, they know he's got a lot of money and he loves wrestling. So they want to be a friend to him. But by him doing this, he's taking a little bit more control of his product, which he should. And now guys are saying, he's getting a little bit stiffer here. So watch what you do in the ring. When he says something, he's the boss. And I don't give a crap if, he was a fan before, but he's the one footing the bills. He's the one paying your salary. He's the one paying the buildings. He's the one traveling, paying the airplane tickets and the catering and all this stuff. So when he tells you to do something, go do it. And don't ask why. You can ask why when you come back out, but I don't think he needs an explanation. You knocked him out. So I think Sammy Guevara got, maybe he'll listen next time. But see, things are okay. And I said this about Darby Allin too. He's okay till he's not. And one of these days, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, right? Or not?
Oh yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So, but anyway, I'm glad Tony Khan took charge of it and did something positive, even though it was negative for Mr. Guevara. You see that respect I showed. I said, Mr. Guevara. See, he's many, many years my junior, but I had respect for him and I called him Mr. Guevara.
So the suspension isn't actually Sammy's first. He had one back in 2020 regarding some insensitive comments he made on a podcast back in 2016, which is a bit of a weird situation. But I remember oddly, Sammy had wrestled on February 24th collision, 10 days after the Rampage match, losing to Powerhouse Hobbs in 17 minutes, and then he gets suspended after the fact. So obviously, he must have gone some sort of arbitration with Brian Danielson or something like that, and they decided to suspend him. But here's the thing.
Wait a minute. Back that up. Brian Danielson fits in this scenario how?
Oh, because there's like a disciplinary committee now in AEW, and I figured, well, because Brian Danielson, I'm never going to get his name right. Brian Danielson, for the CM Punk thing, when CM Punk was fired, was heading up that. So I imagine if there's a disciplinary committee, that he will be somewhere involved in this as well. But that's just my guess. Anyway, here's the problem.
Wait a minute. Now you let me go through all this. Like Tony Khan finally took charge. Was it Tony Khan? It was Brian.
Well, it might have been. It might have been Tony Khan. It might have been a disciplinary committee headed by Tony, or it might have been with Brian Danielson. So,
well, he let it go by anyway. They did the right thing.
Here's the problem, though. In boxing, in UFC, I'm sure, whatever, Foxy boxing. Now, if the participants, or if one of the participants cannot continue, or there's a doctor stoppage or anything like that, it is not up to the participant to decide whether to stop wrestling or stop fighting or stop boxing or whatever it is. It is up to the referee, or it's up to the ringside physician, the doctor, to make that call. So, having said that, what about the doctor then? What about the referee? Let's say that Sammy was told and he ignored it, then he should be suspended. But shouldn't it be up to the referee or the doctor to go to the timekeeper and just call it now?
Well, I don't think they've relayed that information to the referees. They relayed it probably offhandedly, but I think the referee, they might have a little fear of doing this, especially on TV, and they could be wrong, or they could get heat on them. They can lose their job. That's what they're thinking. Now, do they have a doctor at ringside?
Yes, they do. I think so.
Well, but I never saw a doctor at all. Did you?
I think he came in.
He came in after. He came in after.
Could have done, yeah.
So, yeah, but yes, they should be. And I think they should call all the referees together and doctors too, and say, if you see something where the guy is incapable of continuing, or it looks like he's out, stop the match. I don't care what it is. You have to tell them, I don't care what it is. If it's a championship match, you may give it a little more leeway, you'd be a little more lenient, because that affects the future of the company. But these guys, when I saw Sammy come off with that move, I think his legs he just kept spinning a little bit and landed boom. But again, I don't think he meant to do it. He over-rotated, but he knocked the guy out. So, and Jeff's been knocked out several times before, and I don't know how many times he's been knocked out. But I know he
put himself in a stupor quite a lot of times back in the day, I'm sure, as well.
I know he got knocked out a time or two in TNA.
Oh, yeah?
So, hey, I remember the times afterwards that I got knocked out when I was first starting. I got knocked out with this guy in Savannah, Georgia one time, years and years ago. And I forgot what happened. We hit heads. We were both getting ready to throw the punch, and we just collided, bam, and I went down. And the story I tell about that is, when I went down, I was out, but I was almost in a dream state. And I went back, sounds silly, but I went back to when I was like 6 years old, and I was walking on a little trail to my grandmother's house, and you had to go up over a little hill. And I remember that, and it was like, it's so clear. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I could hear the birds singing. Of course, the birds were probably getting punched. And it was a beautiful day. And it was like, I recalled more about that than I recall about the morning that it happened. And then when I came to, you know, the lights are bright and it's dark out here. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing. And the referee was named Charlie Smith. Anybody that knows anything about Georgia Championship Wrestling remembers Charlie Smith. And he said, "You okay?" Yes. And I don't remember what I said, but we finished the match, whatever. I even forgot to finish. And I went back to the dressing room and went out the wrong way. They had to come and get me and take me and said, "No, that's the wrong aisle. Go this way." So I don't know. And, you know, when you get knocked out, you feel that for a while. You're just not right. And I've been knocked out more times than that, but of course I played football when I was growing up and I got knocked out in that. So I've been knocked out. I say in my lifetime, I've probably been knocked out at least 10 times. Well, maybe not 10 times, 8 times.